Welcome to Dawg Tracks, the official podcast of Gardner-Webb University Athletics. I'm Noel T. Manning II, and this is the space where we explore the many dimensions of the Runnin Bulldogs, the people, the stories, and the culture that make Gardner-Webb Athletics so special. Each episode will sit down with coaches, administrators, student athletes, alumni, and friends of the university to talk about leadership, competition, growth, and what it truly means to wear the Bulldog jersey. Dawg Tracks is recorded right here at the historic Elliott House on the Gardner-Webb University campus in Boiling Springs, North Carolina, and this is a place where tradition meets vision and where meaningful dialogue takes shape. Today, I'm excited to be joined by the Vice President for Athletics and Director of Athletics, Brendan Fahey. Brendan, so good to see you. Thanks for joining us. I'm glad you made your way over here to the historic Elliott House. You didn't get lost.
Yeah, no, your directions were great, Noel, and I really appreciate you having me. It's great to be out here, a beautiful facility, and, some great work has been done in this house, and it's an honor for me to join the group and record some things.
Well, very, very glad you're here and excited to have you talk about Gardner-Webb Athletics, and excited to have you talk about yourself and your love of sports and how that happened. So I'd love to get kind of your background. What are some of those early things that shaped your love of sports and also leadership? Maybe there was family influences, some mentors. Give us a little background on how you got into this journey of athletics.
Absolutely, Noel. Thanks. Great question. I think athletics is a field where if it was easy to work in, a lot of people would do it. I think people like the aspect of going to games and working with young people and coaches, but it's a career field where you really have to bet on yourself and invest in yourself and kind of pay your dues, for lack of a better term. For me, starting my journey, when I was young, growing up, both my parents worked on a college campus in higher education. My father was in student activities. My mother was in admissions. So I was on the higher education scene from an early spot, and it just seemed like a great place to work. You're moving around, you're working with different people and younger people. So that was the start of it. And then sports was just ingrained in me from an early age. I love sports, the competition, the thrill of victory, how you learn from your defeats and move forward. So, I think those things early on led me to my career path, and then my journey kind of took off from there.
One of the things that I found working in a college community, living in this college community as well, and my kids have grown up here. They said, Dad, it always feels like there are new people coming in. It feels like this town is always thriving, it's always growing, it's always fresh, and I sense that. I think that's with really any college town you see that because students will come and go. Some decide to stay, raise families here, start their careers here, and some stay here for life. But there's something special about a college campus.
Absolutely. You get all sorts of people that come together. You got students from all over the country, students from all over the world that will live here for 4 years, some less, some longer, depending. And then you got families as well in the community. You've got children that will grow up on the college campus, going to Runnin Bulldogs games, viewing the student athletes as professional athletes and celebrities. So you got families, you got coaches, you got people starting their careers, people that have been here for years. And we all come together with the same passion and goal, and that's supporting the university and supporting the community, and it's great.
So, were there any mentors in your life? You mentioned your parents were strong influences on wanting to be connected to a college campus. Any other mentors that stand out to you that when you look back, you're like, I'm just so thankful for what this person said, what they did, or how they lived who they were through character?
Absolutely, and that's an easy one for me, Noel. No one else but Walt Hamline. Walt, the longtime head football coach and athletic director at Wagner College, he did them both. He was one of two in the country to be the head coach and the AD for 30 plus years. He's still there as a vice president, and he gave me my first opportunity at Wagner in 2006. And back then, if you would have told me I would have stayed there for 19 years, I would have said no way. But a big part of it was Walt, and when I was the senior athletic director and he was the athletic director at football season, he would come into my office and say, all right, Brendan, I'll see you in a few months. You're in charge. And, really let me learn on the job, gave me great advice, was a great mentor, role model, and really a great friend. And, that's an easy one as my career advances. And, I live to leave my mark here at Gardner-Webb. He's one that I owe just about everything to in my career, and great mentor, role model, and leader.
Well, almost 20 years, almost 2 decades at one institution. That's a long time, and there's a lot to be said about investing yourself into a place for that long. And the question is, what was it that drew you away from that to Gardner-Webb? Now, we're glad you're here, but I'd love to. What was that like for you to say, okay, I'm ready to do something else, ready to move on?
Yeah, and I think as you look at my path, I was never one to jump around. I was one. I wanted to believe in the mission. I wanted to believe in the people that I worked with. I wanted to have the ability to make a difference, and ultimately, it was my family. I wanted to make sure my family was in a good position, and I was doing everything for them. So, when the Gardner-Webb opportunity opened up, it was unbelievable to me for personal and professional reasons. Personally, my wife and I had been trying to get to the North Carolina area for some time. We just feel it's a great place to lay our roots down, raise our children. I have an 8-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old daughter, Maisie and Elle. And then professionally, just coming down here and seeing the community, seeing the passion of the alumni, the people that work here, and just the opportunity, the facilities, the area. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the weather was also a decent selling point as well.
Well, we'll talk about the community. It's something that you had heard about. I know when you came for your interviews, and you heard people talk about the community here. Talk about how you have found that to be true.
It just exceeded my expectations. When you come in on the interview, it's a whirlwind, and you don't want to let yourself get too far ahead thinking you might be the lucky candidate to get it. But now being down here in person, Southern hospitality is a real thing. I've just felt so supported professionally and personally, whether it's people reaching out to make sure my children are doing well with the transition, or, what grocery store to go to, where to get my hair cut, and then really going to games and meeting the alumni, just the passion that they have for Gardner-Webb University. And one quick story I'll tell you, I love hearing about experiences that the alumni have had. And the story that I've heard a few times was, a few years ago before my time when the basketball team upset Kentucky in the preseason NIT.
Yes.
And everyone got to go to Madison Square Garden and be part of that. So, my expectations were set pretty high when I got down here. They've been exceeded with just the people and how friendly they are and how passionate they are for this university.
I remember that game very well. I remember covering the Madison Square Garden game as well, going up to New York and spending kind of being embedded with the team, and that was a blast. I mean, that was probably one of the first times that Gardner-Webb got on that national spotlight from a D1 standpoint, and people started taking notice. And there are still people who talk about that. George Clooney, an actor who is a big fan of Kentucky, I got a chance to talk to him back during award season for a movie he's in called Jay Kelly. And I mentioned where I was from and said, yeah, I don't know if you've heard of Gardner-Webb University. And he just bowed his head. He says, can we move on to the next question?
Well, and I'll give you a full circle moment. So, when that game happened at Madison Square Garden, I was an alum of the University of Connecticut who Gardner-Webb played, and I was working at Wagner College in New York. So I was actually at that game. Wow. Unfortunately, at the time, I might have been pulling a little bit more for the Huskies because of that. But I was at that game, and now it's a full circle moment for me to have the opportunity to lead this athletic department as a dream come true.
Well, you have a very unique role. You get a chance to work with coaches, with administration, student athletes, alumni, the community at Broad, and that's a very unique place to be at Gardner-Webb. Talk a little bit about maybe those different audiences and those different groups that you get a chance to work with, and why why that's appealing to you, continues to be appealing to you.
And that's where, as an athletic director, you need to balance, your different stakeholders. You'll sit in a room with a coach who wants the best for their student athletes and wants to find a way to win. And obviously that's what I want to do as well. And then you have administration that, make sure there's certain things that we need to accomplish to help the mission of the institution and do things right that way. And then there's student athletes who now in the world of social media want to, see maybe what other schools are doing. So I think it's a balancing act there to make sure. And what I've always done is, everything that we do will be for the student athlete experience. It'll be to benefit the institution. And then ultimately it'll be trying to find a way to be successful, within the conference. And, the allure of this is, every day is different. Mm-hmm. I'll come in with a list of 5 things I need to get done. By noon, I haven't crossed anything off. And it's not because I'm not working hard. It's because a student athlete stopped by or a coach stopped by. And, that's what I cherish the most is every day is different. And, ultimately you're trying to find a way to win. And you're basically evaluated at the end of the day on wins and losses, which I think is a unique place to work in. And certainly working with the young people, they keep you young. They're full of energy. And you get different ideas off them. So that's what I cherish the most.
You talk about every day being different. College athletics today is different than it was 5 years ago. And you look at NIL, you look at the transfer portal. How does Gardner-Webb, and schools like Gardner-Webb, how do we approach these changing dynamics as shifting underneath our feet daily?
And it happened quick. It really happened quick. It started with, student athletes trying to earn some money by selling their jersey in the store. And, now it's escalated to basically this pay for play where the Power Fours are spending $30 million, give or take, paying for their rosters. So what I've always said, for Gardner-Webb University, and also this is what drew me to this university, is we're not going to change our identity or our mission. We're going to do things the right way. Ultimately, we want our student athletes to have a great experience on the field or in the pool or, in their team. But we also want to make sure they do well academically, that they graduate and they go on and have great careers. That being said, I think if you don't sort of enter the landscape and adapt a little bit, you can get left behind. And I'm so fortunate to work with a president who believes in what we can accomplish and is really aligned with myself and some things that we put into place. We just signed a student athlete department deal with Influxer, which will allow our student athletes for the first time to do some co-branded merchandise and potentially earn some revenue and looking at some different things. But, ultimately Gardner-Webb will keep our identity and our mission as we navigate this.
Yeah, it's about balancing competition, but with character. You want to make sure that the student athletes understand why they're here, and it is being a student first.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are things in place that I think can help student athletes navigate. And we've talked to some of those folks here on our podcast. You've got mentors. You've got some people that can help take notes. The student success area provides opportunities for student athletes as well. Why would you say those kinds of things are important for our student athletes? Because they are working full-time jobs in the mindset when you really think about what it is they're doing.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I have so much respect for our student athletes. They have to balance a full course load and studying and things like that, and then also now athletics, it's a year-round thing. The way back in the olden days, you'd go to practice and that'd be it for the day. Now you got film, you got weights, you got everything. What I love about our institution, being a small Division I, is you can have that interaction, and we have great coaches, we have great support staff that provide resources for our students to make sure that they can be successful. And I think that's important on the recruiting trail because ultimately, if you're looking at Gardner-Webb and maybe a larger institution, this is where we can beat that larger institution is the faculty are going to know who these student athletes are. They're going to go to the games. They're going to see you on campus. Hey, great game yesterday, Brendan, or what may be. So I think that's really, really important for us to show that if you come to Gardner-Webb, you're going to get that attention. We're going to make sure that you're successful because it means a lot to us.
What are some of the opportunities? You talk about the strength of the faculty getting to know you, the staff getting to know you, the community getting to know these student athletes as well. And that's one of the things I love to watch is how these young kids go up and talk to the athletes, and the athletes take their time. They'll bend down, get down on the kids' level, and look them in the eyes. And there's something beautiful about that you don't see everywhere. But what are some other strengths or opportunities that you feel that we've got here in Gardner-Webb Athletics?
Yeah, I think the community piece is so critical. And we have Lene Bruton-Walker from my office does an unbelievable job. Since I got here on day one, I've been so impressed with how she does for our game day atmosphere, where she brings families, children, and communities out to our games. And they really view our student athletes as professional athletes, as celebrities. And I think that's great. I mentioned the partnership with Influxer. I think that was a great thing. Earlier this semester, we had a special guest speaker from Epic Global come to campus and met with all of our coaches and our student athletes on just the dangers of gambling and the addictions with gambling. So I think, having guest speakers come and provide that, whether it's adjusting a class, for a practice schedule or a tutor or things like that, you really get that one-on-one experience here. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our faculty advisory rep, Dr. Sharon Webb, huge, tremendous partner of mine, as well as between the athletics and the faculty side, and setting up some guest coaches for our games so the faculty can come out and see it. So we've got great people in place that ultimately, as an athletic director, really makes my job a little bit easier.
Is there anything that surprised you in your time here, now that you've been here a little while and you're reflecting, looking back a little bit at day one to where you are now?
It's funny. I remember, day one, it seemed so long ago. Yeah. I was able to get comfortable here, I think, really quick. And that's a tribute to, the people on my staff, the coaches, our president. But it feels like so long ago. And, listen, I do think it helped me because I was the athletic director at Wagner College, so I'd sat in that big chair before. So I think having that experience helped me. But no, really, I think coming down to the interview, I had a good sense for what Gardner-Webb was all about. And if anything, my expectations have just been exceeded by the people, by the community, and everything that's in place.
As you think forward, looking ahead 3 to 5 years, what are some of the goals that you would like to see happen? What are some of the plans you'd love to see unfold? And what are some of the things that would make you extremely proud if we got there in 3 to 5 years? Anything that's coming to mind?
Sure. Well, I keep it simple for my goals. It's athletic success, it's academic success, and it's the student-athlete experience. So first and foremost, it's partnering with our coaches to find a way to be competitive and to compete for championships within the Big South Conference. I think that's going to be the most important. And then, of course, academically, making sure that our student-athletes graduate, they do well academically, and the student-athlete experience, continuing to build upon the facilities that we have in place, potentially looking at varsity sport offerings and, any potential additions that might make a good sense to our athletic department in Gardner-Webb. But ultimately, I think everything we do works around those three goals. We're going to work towards how can we have success on the athletic field of play, how can we do well academically, and how we can provide a top-notch student-athlete experience. And, with that, making sure that we're good partners for the university. I think it's important to note that here, athletics isn't in a silo. We play a key role to the enrollment management here at the university and really the front porch. So we've got our goals, and then also making sure we help hit the goals of the university. And if I can do all that in 5 years, I'll feel really good.
Love that. Well, we're about to wrap things up, and I call this the shot clock segment.
Sure.
Because we're just going to drop out a few questions that can be, quick. So let's talk about, if you could describe the soul of Gardner-Webb Athletics in one phrase, what would that be and why?
Grit. Grit. We like to grind. We like to get it done. We like to do it together.
All right. And parting thought here, if one piece of wisdom or encouragement that you could leave with student athletes, coaches, or the Bulldog Nation listening to this, what do you say would capture the hopes for the future if you could leave one piece of wisdom?
Sure. I'll just say that we are all aligned, from the president to the athletic director to the staff to the coaches to the student athletes. We're aligned. We're all one family. We are in this together, and our future is very, very bright. And I am so excited to see what we're going to accomplish in the next 3 to 5 years. And I can tell you that it's going to be a lot, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Brendan Fahey joining us right here, Gardner-Webb University's Dawg Tracks. Any final thoughts, comments you want to make sure you share before we wrap today?
No. Thank you for everything. Thank you for having me. And it's awesome. It's a great day to be a Running Bulldog.
This has really been a great conversation, and I really appreciate everybody taking their time to join us right here on Dawg Tracks. And a big thanks again to Brendan Fahey for sharing insight, perspective, and a deeper look into the heart of Gardner-Webb University athletics. And if you want to stay connected With everything Runnin Bulldogs related, from game schedules to results to stories, features, and updates, be sure to visit gwusports.com. I'm Noel T. Manning II, and this has been Dawg Tracks, and thanks for listening. And until next time, Sko Dogs.